I was called Bug all my life. My father used to call me Spider because I used to pull a cart and put bugs in it, and I'd scurry around. And so anyway, when we moved to Loomis in 1970, and we bought 4 cows, and what were we going to call the little 10-acre place I bought? Well, I said, well, I don't know. And my girls said, well, let's call it the Ladybug. So that's how the Ladybug Ranch was born. And then we bought additional acres next to it, and that was the end of my school teaching career. Cows took over.
So you taught?
19 years. I taught in the Bay Area, in San Rafael, and then in Hayward at Chabot Junior College, and then in Sacramento, but I had to go to a junior high school, and that wasn't any fun, because, you know, when you're teaching junior college kids, why, they can follow directions, but anyway, so I finally quit and started teaching my cows to stand up and put their heads up in the show ring, and instead of students, I was teaching cows. I went to school at Stanford University, and I got a Bachelor of Arts, and then I got a general secondary, and that entitled me to teach junior, well, I could teach at a university level with all the credits that I had. It took me 5.5 years to go through Stanford to become a teacher. I was living in Arbuckle at the Red Rose Ranch that my parents owned, and we were raising rice and nuts at that time. But when I was a little girl at the Sutter Buttes, where I grew up, the man that owned the ranch had cattle, and they had 8 big feed corrals, and they would bring cattle in the wintertime. And so my brother had a pony, and I used to ride his pony before I was old enough to go to school. And he got mad at me because he said the pony was tired when he came home from school, so my parents had to buy me a pony. So they bought me a pony, and we called it Spot. And so then we both had ponies, and we could ride it wherever we wanted to go. So that's how come I liked horses, because we used to get to ride with the cowboys, you know, that were there to take care of the cattle. My father grew up in San Francisco, and then he worked for Standard Oil, and then he went to farming with his uncles, the McRavies, from Dunnigan area and Woodland area. I don't know how he happened to go on his own. I know the uncles were out here farming the Browning property, which is owned by Mathis now. And anyway, the old man Browning came to my father and said, "You've raised me a crop out here that I've not seen before, and I'm going to put you somewhere where you can really make me money." And so that's when he moved him to the Sutter Buttes, because they had water out there and fertile soil, and so that's why we moved to the Sutter Buttes. It was all dry in those days, no water, before the canals were put in. Yeah, 2047 canal and all of those. And now we can pump out of the Sacramento River, and I don't know what's going to happen out here. I don't know if this dam's going to go in or not. I'm not looking forward to it, but if it does, why, maybe I'll get a little water.
So tell me a little bit more about your childhood over on the Sutter Buttes.
Oh, it was great fun. I wasn't old enough to go to school, so I got to ride my pony all day, and the cowboys were stuck taking me with. I would tag along with the cowboys because there had to be a cowboy that would go check the cows every day. So that's where I learned my love of horses, and I remember one time even riding a calf in the corral, and of course I got bucked off. And Mr. Browning had a horse that got injured, not physically injured, but it tore his hide. And so he gave that horse, when it was healed, to my brother, and his name was Paint, and so it was a great big horse. We gave up the pony, And I got to ride the horse because by this time my brother was into manly things, you know, he didn't care about riding anymore. So anyway, I got to take over his horse. And I remember when we moved to Colusa in the wintertime, I would ride that horse from the Sutter Buttes to Colusa all by myself, just to have a horse. And it was fun, but I got bucked off badly one day because I asked the horse to go over a wire fence, and he didn't want to go over a wire fence. So he bucked me off. But of course I got right back up and got back on him, and I rode him to the rest of the way to Colusa. I just liked to ride all my life, you know. I went to school in Colusa for 5 years to Our Lady of Lourdes, and then we went to Woodland to a boarding school. It was a Catholic school, and I can't even remember the name of it, but it was a Catholic school, and I went there 6th, 7th, 8th, and half of my freshman year. And in the middle of that year, my sisters had gone there too. And then they took Mary Ellen and transferred to the Dominican nuns. They were the Holy Cross nuns. And then they sent her down to Dominican, which were the Dominican nuns in San Rafael. So I didn't know that Margaret was being transferred too. So one day the principal called me in January, and they said, "You're through here." And I said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Your sister's transferred down to the Dominicans, and you are out of here." Because I didn't even know my sisters were both being transferred down to Dominican. So that's why I got to go to a public school for a half a year in Arbuckle. And then the next year I went down to Dominican too. My junior year, and I got to ride my horses whenever I wanted. In my junior year, I told my parents, "I'm not going to boarding school. I'll ride down with you when you take the girls down, my sisters down, but I'm not going." And my mother cried, and the nuns cried, and my sisters cried, and I said, "I'm going home. I'm going to live at home." And I think it kind of tied my parents down a little bit, but they'd hire a babysitter for me when they went somewhere. And I got to stay home and go to school, to public school. And I could ride my horse to school even. And I would tie him up to the fence, and I had to carry a skirt in my saddlebags, because in those days you had to wear a dress to school. So I wore a skirt to school in my saddlebags. I carried my skirt, and I would put it on when I got to school, and then I'd take it off when I got ready to go home. So that's what I did. I was still teaching school when I first moved out here. I would go down and stay in Sacramento Monday through Friday. And then I decided, what the hell, I am going to raise cattle and show cattle. And because when you were showing cattle, you started in May and you weren't through till the end of November. And we went from Anderson on the north to Los Angeles in the south. So I was on the road a lot of times.
So you were out here by yourself then?
Yes. I was out here by myself. And then subsequently I got married after I quit showing cattle, and I was married for 10 years, and then he died. So I've lost 2 husbands. They both died.
How old were your girls when you moved out here?
Oh, they were out of high school. They were in college, I think.
What did they have to say about their mom moving out into the middle of nowhere to raise cattle?
Oh, they thought I was crazy. They knew there was no money in it, but they knew I liked it, so they were very supportive of me. They moved out here until they got married. I think the first year I was out here, 80, I can't remember. It was 89, I think. I had one daughter that got married that year, and one daughter that got married the next year, and one daughter that got married the following year. As they got through college, they all knew they had to go to school. Patria met her husband. He was a local rancher at that time, and they owned the big ranch as you come west of Maxwell, and you know where the trees are and the fences are and all that. She met him on the road going through the floodwaters one day. So anyway, all my shorthorn cattle people were coming out here for a picnic, so I invited him, and he came out, and I think that was the beginning of the big romance between the two. So anyway, my oldest daughter lives in Fresno, and Patria is out here unloading heifers for me right now. I can't show cattle anymore because shorthorns are out of favor right now, and that was a breed I loved. My mother and dad said I should raise Herefords, so we got a Hereford one year, and we showed a Hereford along with ours. But I still have some purebred shorthorns out here, but we have a mixed breed out here. I'm running cattle with my son-in-law now, David Forster. So anyway, I don't know. This ranch can only hold, I think, probably 50 head and calves.
Tell us a little bit about Sites and how you feel about Sites Reservoir.
I think it should have been put in at the end of the Second World War. We had the equipment and we had the manpower because they were shutting down all the services. They didn't do it then. It's going to cost them way, way more. I have some plans where they had done it years ago, $3 million. Well, now it's up to billions. I think there's still a need for it, but my mother built the house down the road there. That used to be our property too. And the only question I have is, how am I going to get in and out? Gary Evans told me that they will put a road in for me, but they won't maintain it. That's going to increase my trip. I think I should be able to come across the hills. Mathis doesn't want me to cross them, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't want somebody to go across me either, because then you've got the problem of the open and shut gates, and you know. So I don't know what's going to happen.
How would you get out from here if...
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. The original plan showed me going across Sulphur Gap, which is right up here. The last one that Gary Evans, they're going to send me down to Williams, south, but are they going to send me on Huffmaster grade? Am I going to have to go that way, or can I go straight south? And who will I cross? And who's going to maintain the road for me? You know, they're going to take this road out because it'll be covered with water, at least part of the year, hopefully. So I don't know how I'm going to get in and out. That's a good question, but maybe eventually it'll be answered.
How does it make you feel thinking about half your property being covered up with water?
You know, it should have been done a long time ago, but if I'm compensated adequately, I think that our state needs the water. I hate to see the water going down to Metropolitan Water District down south, because they've got lots of water already from the far side of the hill, but it's a project that should have been done years ago. That's my feeling. I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be here, on the right side of the dirt, I mean. But yeah, I hope I get to see it, you know, but that's 9 years, so hell, I don't think I'll be here in 9 years.
Is there anything else about your life that you would want people to remember you for?
Nothing special, except that I've always been involved. I've always tried to do my duty or take responsibility for myself. And in the organizations I've joined, I've tried to serve well and thoughtfully. I was on the Flood Protection Board. I've been on the ASCS board. That's the Agricultural Stabilization Committee. I've been president of the Cattlemen's Association for 2 terms, and of the cattlewomen locally for 2 terms. I was president of the State Cattlewomen's Association. I think that if life is good to you, you've got to give back in some way. And if you can serve and enhance everybody while you're doing it and not hurt anybody, then I think that it's our responsibility to do it. So that's my opinion.
You've seen a lot of changes in your lifetime. What do you think the future holds for ag?
I don't know, but the people in ag are all going to have to wake up, join their agricultural associations, to maintain their farms, to let their kids farm. Maybe they have to retire a little bit early, because you know how I saw it with my brother and my father, and it was difficult for my dad to let my brother, and then it was difficult for my brother when his kids started farming. If the almighty dollar doesn't mean so much to you, you could keep on farming. But if somebody comes and offers you $1,000 an acre, it's going to be hard to turn it down. It really is. Or even 2,000, 10,000. I mean, look at what they're getting for farming ground now. My God, it's astronomical. And I can understand why some people want to retire and get out of farming, and why they don't want their kids to farm.
It's hard for somebody that doesn't have a family in it to start. Any advice to somebody that wants to farm?
There's all kinds of ways. All you have to do is pick up a magazine and read how young farmers and ranchers can get started. And you have to talk to your farm advisor. I think there's a way for everybody that's really interested in agriculture, but you have to go seek them out. Seek out the people that can tell you what to do. I read a lot of articles in the magazines I get, and in the farm journals I get, and the Western Horseman, and the Farm Journal, and Ag Alert. There's all kinds of articles in there now about how to get involved with farming. You have to start small. You can't start big. You can't start at the top. And you have to be willing to sacrifice, I think.